Welcome to this special edition of the DPW podcast, live from the floor of DPW New York, where we've been talking procurement, technology, and innovation. We're now going to move on to a space that I've been looking at for a while, the world of R&D in the world of procurement. So procurement and R&D space in the pharma industry. I'll get my words right after a few podcasts here. I've got Dan and Joe. Joe has helped transform the procurement function at Novartis, and particularly in the R&D space. So we're going to be pulling on his expertise and the journey so far and into the future. And Dan works for Scientist.com, who are providing support for companies like Novartis and new ways of working on the side as well. But firstly, welcome to DPW. And
Thanks
the podcast.
for having us.
Thanks. Good to be here.
How's the experience been so far? You've come into quite a frenzy of a festival of procurement technology and procurement leaders.
Indeed. I mean, it's clear that AI and innovation is hot and heavy on everyone's mind. One of the earlier sessions, a lot of folks are novices in this AI generative space and looking to figure out how we level up our procurement and impact.
How about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, I think it's great that this event exists. It provides a lot of insights to our clients and helps, I'd say, move the entire ecosystem forward in terms of a big transformational way.
So in the world of pharma, we've seen a lot of changes over the last few years. I guess in COVID, we all got to know every single pharma company in the world, and they helped us through those hard times. But I guess over the last 10, 15 years, Joe, I've worked with your company and many other pharma companies in the space. There's been quite a change going on in how you do R&D. And maybe you could talk about some of the complexities of the last few years and what you've been doing in terms of the transformation of the function as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. So been with Novartis now 21 years in a variety of roles, mostly in R&D. And, what we've seen quite a bit over the years is the complexity of the supply market that we're trying to access, our own internal bureaucracies, especially big companies. We have a lot of stringence around compliance, legal concerns, etc. And when we think about really what we're trying to do for R&D, it's about enabling the science and ensuring that they can get the right suppliers at the right time, minimal headache, minimal bureaucracy for them. And it's a challenge for large organizations. And so one of the things we've done, particularly in R&D in the research space, is partnered with companies like Scientist.com, which really facilitate and enable our scientists at getting speed to market for the suppliers that they need to work with. So if you think about, I'll just throw one anecdote, one story out there. Before our relationship, the time from, let's say, request to PO was measured in weeks, if not months, right? And now with the platform that we work with internally, we've rebranded it kind of Novartis Creative Marketplace. We can go from request to PO in a matter of days. And in the context of pharmaceutical R&D, if you think about, everyone always asks the question, and sorry, I'm rambling here, but everyone always asks the question a bit, what is time worth? And so I've come up with this bit of a calculation where if you look at what a priority review voucher goes for, and they sell in the open market, you're looking at roughly 110 million for a 4-month accelerated review.
Wow.
You do the math on that, that's almost $1 million a day, and that's for one program. Imagine what we can do accelerating for all our programs. And that's what we're trying to do.
And this is obviously shareholder value is driven off this pipeline of potential opportunity you have with the different projects you have in there. To get that speed through with the possibility of coming out with a blockbuster drug on the other side is massive.
Absolutely.
Completely aligned with, I'm sure, the CEO and the shareholders on that, and also to your patients as you drive better health across the patient side as well. So Dan, how about yourself? You've been working in this space for a while. What's the overall R&D space, and tell us a little bit more about what you've been doing to support.
Yeah, piggybacking off of what Joe said, and it's been great seeing some of these other softwares. But what's unique about R&D is that when you're talking about research services, IP is being created, right? And these suppliers are working on some of the most sensitive areas, like working with actual human samples, working with animals. And so you just don't want a researcher using an AI necessarily to come up with a random contract on the fly. And so we've taken a slightly different approach, right? We have the procurement orchestration layer in terms of guiding people to the right suppliers, but we also consolidate the vendor base in so that you don't need to put a contract in place. It's already been done. The due diligence has already been done. Novartis' standards and policies have already been implemented. And so having it already done makes it so much better than having it done on the fly. And I think that's a unique aspect. And then we also realize that it is extremely complex, these services. And so we've added a human component to that to not only provide expertise to scientists who have maybe never used these services before, but also help them throughout the entire process. And that could even be navigating Novartis' internal policies just so that we can drive that speed and get the value that Joe was describing.
So it's the speed, it's the value, but in a world of compliance. So I guess that's probably underwriting everything in the R&D side, and this is also helping on the compliance side and efficiencies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've built into the scientist.com workflow is that whole compliance manifest process, which was initially a concern in terms of, are we going to be able to ensure that we have the right oversight and compliance? This actually simplifies that whole process, where in a let's say a previous iteration, the procurement manager, the category manager would have to make those connections. Did you check with compliance? Did you check with animal welfare? It's all built into the process now, seamless. And so the appropriate compliance person will get the pop-up in their inbox, and they'll know what they need to do to move it forward. And so that's where you get that request to PO time dramatically shortened. The other piece you alluded to around the contracting, which really we shouldn't understate. Especially early on during the relationship, we would have many companies reach out. Oh, we don't want to go through this platform, right? It was a new concept, and I would challenge them. It's like I don't understand your concern here. With one agreement, you have the ability to get hot leads from myself and many of my pharma peers with one agreement framework, and that's working through scientist.com. Or you and I can establish an agreement framework, an MSA, and that allows you to get hits when they come or get leads when they come. So I've often seen it as a game changer for the suppliers in terms of their cost to sale, which obviously then they pass some of that savings on to us. And frankly, our legal folks really benefit from it. And oftentimes, folks will reach out to legal directly, and our colleagues will say, hey, no, this actually should be going through scientist.com.
What type of volumes of, not spend, but kind of contracts or engagements are you actually doing through this? Oh,
we're probably a few thousand transactions annually. And so through, I think, and now I know the marketplace has upwards of 6,000 pre-contracted suppliers. In terms of how many unique suppliers we're using, you might
probably used about 1,500 over the course of the last 5 years, and probably like 400 or 500 each year, but it rotates based on the researcher's needs, so to speak. And I think it sounds like just a few when you talk about thousands, but it's basically buying thousands of cars. The average order value is usually about 30K. And so being able to essentially dot every I and cross every T on buying all of those vehicles in the regulated space is essentially the problem that we're solving here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that is, let's say it's 1,500 transactions that we're going through that were dramatically simplified from before. And it's an evolution. We started out with early preclinical research services. Human biological samples was really a big one that drove a lot of traction. unsurprisingly one with a lot of sensitivity around making sure we're working with the right partners. And I think, again, from an efficiency, from a people efficiency, you probably remember some of the process. We had just under maybe a dozen people required to review the informed consents, review the agreement frameworks, review the material transfer language, review the country of origin, all that kind of stuff more or less went away through this channel. So it's been a big game changer, especially in that category. And we continue to roll out we continue to expand it into other categories. And each time it's a change management effort, but we're making good progress.
Like a big win-win-win. I guess it's three wins. The business cares as well as the teams from your side and the suppliers. And this kind of, I guess it's a vertical marketplace. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to say, Dan, but you've got a huge amount of data in there, and we're at the event here talking about how we put procurement, AI to work in the world of procurement. How are you now tapping into AI in terms of the product today? But what's the vision of what you can do with AI to take this to the next level as well?
I agree. I'd argue that, business insights, the ideas that are coming out of our platform is going to become the new procurement currency, so to speak. And so with regards to the platform, we're seeing data in a number of different ways. We've built out specific research tools like the tumor model finder. And for those of you who are not in research, essentially a tumor model is a patient-derived xenograph where it is specific to an individual, where you graft it onto a mouse and then you can test drugs against that particular individual's tumor. And so what we've done is collected all this information on the expression data, the genomic data, and then you can query that database to be able to identify the specific models or sections of models that you want to then do your research on. So it's a game changer with regards to that. But more, I would say broadly, I think the business insights is going to be taking information around the suppliers, how they quote, looking at rate card compliance, looking at being able to take these very complex services and breaking them down into their building blocks at a line item level so that you can, identify what a should be cost in these services could be, potentially do budgeting and forecasting in a number of different areas. And that's where we've been developing this with a number of clients this year, and that's where I see it going.
And I presume that these suppliers and new suppliers coming into the marketplace are also innovating and coming up with new products. So this also gives you the access to that innovation as quickly as you can.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, just to build on the PDX piece, if you think about the effort a researcher would have had to undergone reading countless journals, scientific journals, to understand which model they should test their therapies on, this basically streamlines and helps you pull out that needle out of the haystack much faster. It's quite impressive. And again, as new technologies come on board, often you can imagine in procurement, we are constantly getting peppered with, hey, we have this new, good or service. My first path is always to direct them to the marketplace. And then, as there is a need or that service is needed to be called upon, then they're there for us and we can access them.
Yeah, and with research, you have a lot of complexity in terms of how these folks are quoting. And so if you can start looking at, well, if I choose this particular purity of that compound, it's going to save me 50%. Or if I add on this extra experiment, it's going to take me 3 weeks longer. Maybe I'll wait. Like, these are the insights that I think are going to drive transformational value for the researchers, but also provide insights for procurement when they're going into reviews with these suppliers on who they want to become their strategic suppliers.
That decision on maybe a little bit more cost to accelerate by 3 weeks, 4 weeks, adds up to lots of potential gains, and just getting, you do that through a whole life cycle, and you're shaving months off the potential.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it adds up dramatically, and just having that data to make those decisions on, where historically the researcher didn't have that data. The other thing that we really like is that sort of, I describe it as like the Amazon rating system, right? It's one thing for a supplier that you've never worked with to say that they can deliver it at this time, under this timeline, and at this price, but to having that kind of net promoter score and the rating to build in that trust with these suppliers that you may not have worked with before is also, again, super powerful. And we can learn from that. And I think that's where some of, the AI and what you hadn't mentioned it yet, but something that we're really interested around is this sort of insta quote, right? So for complex services, that's impressive, right? Because typically researcher has a scope of work, it has to go to the supplier, they have to run their machine in the back end to figure out what this is going to cost. But looking at all the data that you guys have, you'll be able to do that predictive costing as well as turnaround time, which is, of course, so important.
It sounds like a really good partnership between your two companies. It sounds like you're helping to drive some of the innovation in the product side, but also it's giving you that speed and innovation that you want in your own organization as well.
Yeah, agree. I mean, look, I look at this and, obviously there are other players in the market as well. And I look at this model as solving collective burden that we all have, right? We're all on the same team. If you look at the mission statement of all our companies, they're all more or less in lockstep. So we're all on the human team. And so anything we can do to advance science and discovery of new medicines is what I'm about and what we're trying to do in R&D procurement.
Before we wrap up, is there any other innovation that you're seeing or hoping for in the R&D space as you look with the AI side? 2030, what's the next innovation you can see coming to space, or what's the big problem that we need to tackle?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're specifically looking at is I would almost describe it as how do you, or can you, commoditize the bespoke service activities that we're doing? So we often get challenged to understand the unit price of what we're trying to buy. And I think with the collective power of the data that companies like Dan's has, we should be in a position to really unlock that. And unlocking that then translates to meaningful data that you can act on, drive more competition. And again, every dollar that we don't spend unnecessarily on excess margin for a supplier is more money that gets put back into scientific research.
Dan, how about yourself? Any
I totally agree with what Joe was saying. I would say our goal is to take all that data, and we built a private LLM, just like some of the other orchestration platforms out here, and to be able to feed those insights to the researchers throughout that experience. So it's like, how do I find the right supplier for what I'm looking for, which could maybe extract data from websites, et cetera, for a unique service, to how do I compare two proposals, to how do I drive change management within organizations who are trying to not only look at cost, but sustainability, diversity, and a number of these other activities, and make that seamless for the researchers end to end. Because as Joe said, time is certainly money, but also you want to make sure you're choosing the right supplier for your research, because quality is, you have to make sure that's done right the first time.
Oh, look, this has been
real quick. You said time is money, and I'll maybe just my closing piece. I think time is also time. It's time for that patient who is desperately waiting or desperately needing that for however much longer life that they can have with their children, their grandchildren, etc.
Couldn't agree more, Joe.
Wow, look, and time, we saw COVID. I mean, yeah. Again, a broad brushed approach. I know you're looking at all sorts of treatment that you're doing there, but we all saw how quickly the vaccines came out around COVID, and that was real speed. I think that changed quite a lot in terms of approach of getting drugs out. So I think we all appreciated and benefit from that. But if you're looking at all the other elements and illnesses out there as well, time is patients' health and well-being. This has been fascinating to look into a deep dive into a particular area of an industry and procurement. And it'll be great to catch up with you again, because I think this whole R&D procurement is a great baseline for how other procurement people might start rethinking around the processes. We had Brian Solis talking about starting with the AI piece, but we have to start rather than just looking at the workflows we currently been kind of 10% improvement, but how do we rethink it? And what you've just explained to me is rethinking this whole engagement with the suppliers to drive, the outcomes that benefit both the business but also the patients as well. So thank you very much both, Dan.
Appreciate it, Mark.
For that. And Joe.
Appreciate it.
Right, and enjoy the rest of the day and tomorrow, and it'd be great to catch up and get your feedback on the experience as well.
Absolutely. Looking forward
Thank
to
you
it.
very much.
Me too. Thank you.
Cheers.